Today's sponsor of the Vision Quest podcast is 920 Hat Company. Leather patch hats are in, and 920 Hat Company is here to hook you up with your very own custom hat. All patches are lasered on top-grade genuine leather and on popular brand hats like Richardson and FlexFit. Whether you're looking to show off your business or want a one-of-a-kind hat for yourself, 920 Hat Company can do it all. All the hats are handcrafted right in the Fox Valley, but worn across America. With over 500 hats in stock, they guarantee fast turnaround times. Honestly, Liam, looking at these hats, solid, right?
Yeah, they're pretty. I like them.
I like that patch itself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one-of-a-kind stuff. I know his name's Trevor. He does great work. He's actually gotten I think we got a knit hat coming.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we got that coming. So we're really excited to have these guys on board as a sponsor. So get down to check them out on Facebook. I believe they're on Instagram. Check them out, man. They got the best hats, I think, in the Fox Valley, if not in the state.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So get down to 920 Hat Company on social media and check them out. All right, everyone. We are back for another episode of the Vision Quest podcast. We have here with me today. See, we're diving into a lot more than just guys who wrestle and things like that. We're going to dive into a lot about nutrition and also with the body, which is training, fitness, and also recovery. Recovery is a big one. I've learned a lot now with a lot of the wrestlers we've been around. But I am joined today by Mr. Gary Mitchel. He is a trainer and therapist and owner, correct?
Partially, yeah.
Okay.
Kind of.
You're out at Victory Sports and Wellness, and you within is also Massage Concepts, right?
Correct. That is my business within Victory Sports and Wellness. Yeah.
Okay. So you guys have been doing what you're doing for how long?
We have been in this new space, so I don't know how much history-wise. Kevin used to have Victory School of Wrestling previous to this.
Kevin Black, right?
Kevin Black.
Okay,
yes.
a lot
Kevin
of people know who Kevin Black is around here.
Yep. Correct. So he had Victory School of Wrestling previously for 5, 6, 7 years. And oddly enough, we actually ended up back in the same building that he was in previously, which was just a total odd chain of events there.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I am owner of Massage Concepts.
Okay.
Sports therapy and training.
Yep.
I've been a massage therapist for 14 years in the state of Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Personal trainer for 8.
Okay.
And of that time, primarily working with wrestlers for the past 5 to 6 years.
So what made you with what you specialize in the massage therapy side, correct?
Correct. And I would say so. I typically classify it as sports massage just because it's a little more specific towards athletes, not necessarily just wrestlers, but obviously given the location and the connections, I do work with a fair amount of wrestlers.
Yep.
Both on the body work side, but also in the massage and rehab world. I kind of specialize a little bit more in recovery as well, injury rehab. Bringing athletes back from, ACL sprains, torn meniscus, whatever, shoulder injuries. Just with the style of body work and massage that I do, it's more rehabilitative.
Okay. So let's touch on that a little bit. We are kind of in the height of injury season where things start to happen a little bit. So with the side that you deal with as far as recovery and things like that, what are the majority of the injuries that are coming through that you typically see within the time that you've been doing it now? What are the most common?
Most common, I would say, particularly with wrestlers, I would say, knee injuries, MCL, LCL sprains, tears.
Really?
And, particularly working with Kevin and working more on the women's side.
Yeah.
women in general, and I'm not disparaging anybody, but
Yep.
they typically don't have the same muscle mass.
Yep.
And particularly when it comes to joints like that, are more mobile.
Well, and a bone density is a little
know.
different too, as far as the makeup and everything
Bone density
too.
is
Yeah.
a little different, but I think a lot of it boils down to, that laxity and sometimes that lack of overall strength.
Sure.
Because I don't know how many women's matches you've watched necessarily, but I mean, I don't know how many times somebody goes in on a single and that leg just, straight out 90 degrees.
Yeah, it does.
Every time that happens, not that you don't see it with guys.
Right.
It happens with guys too, but every time I see that, I'm like, oh, well, there goes that.
Yep. That's, if it's not now, next one, it's going.
Right. So, but yeah, I mean, I would say even because we get a decent amount of, here at Victory, we've got youth kids, we've got middle school kids, we've got high school kids.
Yeah.
And then we've got some senior level athletes.
Yep.
And I would say even with the middle school kids that we've had recently, if I've seen an injury, it's probably still a knee. Or
okay,
we had some kids in here yesterday, separated shoulder or possibly sprained AC joint.
Okay.
And I imagine for me not seeing that in the office very often,
yeah,
I know it's fairly common just from working with wrestlers previous to this as well.
Right. So with the side that you do with on the recovery side, what are some, I guess, what are some of the techniques, number one, or what are some of the industry things that you guys use in order to, bring recovery forward, or it's something that's a part of recovery every single time? What do you guys use for things for recovery?
That's a very broad question.
Yep.
There, Brad.
Yep. That's fine.
So let's start off by, I don't want to say pigeonholing it, but let's just say to what I do manually with somebody on the table.
Yep.
I obviously do a more rehabilitative style massage.
Yep.
Reasons for this being, calming down tissue that, if you have a sprain, a strain, if I had a gentleman, right, we just had the Northern Badger, what was that, at the end of December here.
Yep.
And we had 42 teams in for that. And one of the coaches contacted me and said, our kid, he got slammed and his back is just spasmed.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when stuff like that happens, the body just wants to seize up.
Okay.
Because it wants to protect everything.
Yep.
So a lot of what I do, in situations like that where it's acute, meaning it just happened.
Yep.
Sorry, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Let me know if I'm too technical.
Explain away. I mean, that's the thing is like we aren't experts out here, so not everybody knows what's going on, you know. So.
Yep. And in those acute type injury situations, the nervous system and the body it just wants to protect.
Yeah.
And the only thing it can tell a muscle to do is contract.
Sure.
So that's what it's going to do because it wants to stabilize and keep everything kosher.
Yep.
So with something like that, I can go in and we can influence the nervous system with massage, getting it to go from a sympathetic fight or flight state to a parasympathetic rest and relax.
Okay. Gotcha.
So with that, with that particular athlete, we even got him in the day before Badger started, 7:00 in the morning before weigh-ins.
Nice.
We were able to get his body to relax. He was able to move better. And then he went and, I don't think he had to cut weight, but he went and weighed in and warmed up normally like he would.
Yeah.
And I eventually looked at the rankings later after the tournament and he took third. So, I mean, obviously
it helped.
So, but that's where we have to find a balance though, too, because massage in general, no matter how you do it, you're affecting the nervous system to what we call bring down muscle tone to relax the body.
Okay.
So in say like a tournament style setting, like you want to do that, but you also have to have the knowledge to say, okay, that's calmed down now. It's ready to, but is it ready to go?
Yeah.
Because when you do body work, like like I said, you get things to relax. And then a lot of times it's like, oh, now it doesn't want to activate. Now those muscles don't want to move.
Sure.
So that's kind of the secondary piece of what I do manually on the table is we try and get those areas calmed down that need to be calmed down.
Okay.
And then we activate other tissues with things like massage guns or vibration rollers or things like that that are going to upregulate and make some of those other accessory muscles fire so you're still ready to go.
Sure.
And not, not where you go out and you're like, oh, I'm so relaxed I can't wrestle, and oh, I'm on my back, and oh, I'm
yeah. Oh, I'm counting lights. This feels so good. Yeah.
I don't think that would be beneficial. My back feels better, but now I'm doing barbecue.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, but then along with that, I've also, particularly over the years, and particularly working with other clientele, I've got a couple sponsored athletes that are power lifters or strongmen or, bodybuilders.
Yep.
And those guys, I've got one guy that's 6'3", almost 400 pounds.
Okay.
So with that,
wow, that's a big dude.
I've moved into tools with scraping and cupping. And, doing some of those other therapies that are also going to influence the nervous system the way we want it to, but also.
So you mentioned cupping, right? I've noticed this on a lot of wrestlers. So I'd heard about it before. So I wasn't like, when I saw their body, I wasn't like, oh my God, what's wrong with them? Like it's a gigantic case of ringworm or something on there. Yeah. So I knew what it was. So I'm curious. I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan, but I haven't heard him too much talking about cupping, but just a tiny bit. What are the benefits? I know it's you're drawing blood to the top, correct? Is what you're pulling, right?
You can.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I'm assuming that's what the bruising or whatever is, right? Because with all that force, is that because that's the area that needs it, so you're trying to draw the blood in and into that area?
Placement with it can always depend on what your actual goal is.
Okay.
And I would say so.
And I know nothing about it, so.
Yep. So with cupping, most people are, familiar enough to know, oh yeah, that looks like cupping.
Yep.
So what our goal is typically, and what I typically use it for if somebody is really, really tight, and particularly if their body is, how I say, reactive to therapy. So if I try and work on them, and you might even know, you try and rub something out for somebody, or even just try to get them to calm down, and they're like, either it hurts, or I've noticed particularly with middle school athletes,
tense,
or they either get tight like that, or like it's ticklish as hell, right? And they laugh. Yeah. So
totally. Yeah.
So one that tells me there's chronic tightness there, which could be a strength issue as well.
Okay.
And with chronic tightness, and I'll be honest, for 14 years of practice, it took me about 8 or 9 before I actually thought about this. If you have muscles that are chronically tight, they're squeezing arteries and veins all the time too. So is your blood flow in that area going to be compromised? More than likely.
Totally.
Yeah. So
wow.
So a couple things with cupping. We put the cupping on. We create the vacuum. There's multitudes of different cups now. I have silicone cups. I have polycarbonate,
Yeah.
But essentially, we're still doing kind of the same thing. We create a vacuum. The tissue goes up into the cup.
Yep.
And with that, we're creating decompression of the tissue. So, and when you said increasing blood flow, it can increase blood flow. It won't always.
Okay.
It depends on how tight the tissue is. But essentially, what's a good way to say it? Think of our tissues as like a slice of pizza.
Yeah.
Now this is going to be a little late. But as we put that cup on that slice of pizza and start to decompress it, the toppings are going to come off first. Whatever's, let's say our pepperonis on the top. And then the more pressure or the more vacuum, that we give it, we start to pull the cheese off the pizza.
Yep.
And then the sauce comes, and we start creating space in that tissue.
Okay. I see what you're doing.
Beneficial for various reasons. One, we should get some nervous system response. So like I said, those people who are overly sensitive to touch and laugh or pull away, we can usually put a cuff on them, decompress the tissue, and get that nervous system response to calm everything down.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep. Secondarily, as we decompress those tissues, we allow for more fluid flow, whether it be circulation, whether it be lymph flow, and lymph flow is a whole nother category. Very beneficial for athletes, but probably another thing that a lot of people don't know much about. Right. I don't know if you've ever heard about the lymphatic system.
Nope. So with that being said, though, when guys are going, so you're talking about like, cramping and things like that, is, especially in the backs, a lot of wrestlers get it in their backs or their legs. I know that we've witnessed some of the leg cramping already this season. When they're out, so if you got a wrestler that's out there and he's, especially in that moment, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about recovery, but in that moment, what's happening to that muscle, and you can feel it's a hard ball. What's happening? They're most likely going to re-encounter that again in that match, aren't they? Because you're literally only relaxing it so much, right?
Yes, I would agree with that statement. And I would follow that by, and particularly knowing, how wrestling is, quote unquote, as a culture.
Yeah.
I would also probably say that particular athlete, if it's happening during a match, is dehydrated, right?
Sure. Yep. Totally. We talk about weight cutting all the time. That's one of the big topics, and I know that for sure those guys are dehydrated when that's happening. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So typically, from what I see in that kind of situation, it's dietary.
Okay.
In that situation, could I work on that person, possibly get it to calm down? Maybe.
Yeah.
Is it going to happen again? More than likely, unless they hydrate and get some kind of electrolytes in there.
So common knowledge. Obviously, if you got a guy that's laying on the mat and all of a sudden he gets a slam of something or whatever, electrolytes, and we talk about Himalayan mountain salts and stuff like that.
Sure.
But it's going to take him a little bit before that kicks in. So he's still going to be cramping in the meantime. But so you get a guy that's coming in. Do you have people that come in that cramp constantly? Like, do you have clients that are like, it doesn't stop. I'm trying bananas. I'm drinking water. Do you have guys that just constantly cramp at all? Is that a common thing? No. Nope, not anymore.
Because like I say, it really truly is, and I've talked to other professionals about this too. It really truly is 90% of the time dietary. You're either not drinking enough water, or you don't have enough electrolytes, or a combination of the two.
Right on.
I would say maybe the 10%, if somebody actually does say that, you could probably break it down to either previous injury.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Not correct, not corrected yet.
Yep.
Or, really just some quote unquote really dysfunctional part of their body.
Yeah. So before I busted in with the whole cupping thing, you're breaking into the other therapies that you deal with within the facility there. So what, besides cupping, what are the other sports therapies that you do? Sports massages.
So the other stuff I do specifically, the scraping is generally used. Grafton, whatever you want to call it. People call it a lot of different things. Technically called instrument-assisted soft tissue manipulation.
Okay.
Kind of a long way to say it.
Yeah.
That acts kind of like massage. We are, once again, affecting the nervous system depending on how we apply it.
Okay.
But we're also tend to use less ointment with it. Because then what we're doing, we're moving along with the tissue. And once again, thinking about the pizza. So with scraping, we're almost kind of moving the toppings.
Yep.
And creating tension through all those layers, but we're not moving those bottom layers.
Okay.
So that's some of that tension can actually create increased blood flow, increased lymph flow, and stuff like that.
Interesting.
trying to think now. Oh, trying to think of what else over on my cart that I do. Probably the last thing I would say I do, particularly just right here in my office, would be electrical muscle stimulation.
Oh, okay.
So, and for that specifically, I use a unit called the Mark Pro. I think they're coming a little popular with a lot of baseball players, particularly pitchers for shoulder health and stuff like that. But the main thing with that is I will use it primarily for two reasons. One, activation. So like I said, if you're working on somebody, you get them nice and relaxed, that's going to be good because you're bringing their nervous system down. But if they're getting ready to go, pitch 5 innings, then they're probably not going to be ready. So you could throw this on to upregulate and get their muscles activated so they're ready to go. Or even for a match, I know, some of our wrestlers use it if they're still rehabbing a previous injury.
Yeah.
Just to get, like, particularly around the knee, we'll put a couple pads on the quad, couple pads on the calf.
Okay.
Get those muscles activated and ready to go, and that way they can stabilize that.
So I think I had something maybe similar. I could be misspeaking, but going to a chiropractor because I'm old. I had to have some back massage work done because of some nerve. I want to say sciatic. I think it was the sciatic I was having issues with. It literally was moving it around, but I went for 4 weeks and I was good. It was good to go. But he did put pads on my back, and when you hear electrode, like you still feel like you're gonna still get like a little bit of a shock when in reality you don't even really feel that part of it. It's just making your muscle move. So I was actually really concerned when he put that on me. I was like, whoa, what are you putting on? And he's like, no, it's fine. He goes, it's just going to make your muscles twitch. I was like, yeah, when it shocks me. He goes, no, it's not going to shock you. So for those of folks that are a little worried about that stuff, you don't feel anything. It's literally, it's doing its own work with your muscle and it's just making it twitch.
Yeah.
That's about it.
And it should always be put on a tolerable setting too. And if you're working with somebody, particularly a professional, and it's not on a tolerable setting, then you don't need to see that person ever again.
Pay that bill and be done.
Yes. But I wonder now, when they put it on you, was it more of a constant buzzing sensation, or did it actually get the muscles to contract?
The one that I had felt like it was a constant buzzing sensation.
Okay. So that is more of a TINS unit. And TINS unit is typically used in that kind of application where we're trying to get things to relax.
Gotcha.
Whereas with the Mark Pro, it's actually a muscle stimulator, so we get the muscle. It's really weird and going along the same lines of what you were thinking, or what you were describing. Yeah, you would be like, "What the hell is going on here?" Because it does. Whatever you're trying to work on. It gets that to contract.
Yeah. Okay.
Which brings me to the second reason that I use it. Once again, going back to blood flow. I'm going to reference blood flow a lot, by the way.
It's pretty important.
But when you get muscles to contract in that fashion, particularly around a knee or a joint or ligaments that don't have a lot of blood flow, and let's say there's also an injury there, if you can create an environment where you're pumping those muscles, particularly in the lower extremity, because our blood flow in our legs primarily relies on our leg muscles contracting to push that fluid back to our heart. Okay. So that's why knee injuries, ankle injuries take a long time. One, because more than likely it's a ligament and they don't have their own sustained blood flow. But then also your legs have to be moving for that blood flow to move efficient.
Very true.
If you can create that environment, if you can create that environment with a muscle stimulator, it's going to be beneficial.
So this would have been great to have back in the soccer days when I was younger, because my hip flexors were horrible by the time I was, I don't know, say 17, 18. So I could I was just probably before college. Yeah. I could run a dead sprint and it didn't bother me. As soon as I got to a slow jog, that harder impact coming down on my hip, just that joint right there, it was so painful. I had to stop. So I was constantly sprinting because it was the only running I could do that didn't hurt. So everybody's like, "Why? Slow down, Crook." I'm like, I can't. I gotta go fast.
Well, and part of that probably too was when you went to the I lost my train of thought. The jogging speed instead of the sprinting speed.
Yep.
Your hip flexors are contracting more eccentrically because they're taking that load because you're not running as fast.
Right.
And that's going to cause more muscle fibers to cross, and it's going to.
It hurt a lot. Yeah, it was pretty painful. Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just so you know, we're the same age. I graduated in 97 as well.
It was rough. And I know, so like watching a lot of, just massage therapies that are going on now that I see the kids being able to take advantage of, and just the knowledge that the trainers have now with injuries that have come and gone and technology and things like that. But when you are in the midst of like any type of a season, as far as softball or with girls wrestling, and what are some of the differences of how a treatment plan may go for a girl wrestler versus a boy? Is there a difference in that kind of thing? Like you said, just their makeup is a little different. Is the training plan a little different then too? As far as recovery, for recovery,
strength and conditioning, or recovery?
No, for recovery. Training, I guess.
It actually doesn't. Yeah, it actually doesn't vary all that much.
No.
And really, so much of what I do from a recovery bodywork point of view is really tailored to each person.
Okay.
And I've been working with some of our ladies for 5 years, so I know when they come in, I can even just look at them and say, okay, I know what we're working. Sure. They don't even have to tell me.
Yeah.
Because the body, and from playing soccer, the body creates those compensations, and
Yes, I'm dealing with it right now. I mean, my right hip still is again starting to act up, and just the way that I walk now, my left foot is hurting because it's not used to walking a certain way. So now I have to I still stretch. I'm stretching, and I do a roller, and we actually have one of those guns that we use, and I can find the sweet spot, and it feels so good when I find the sweet spot. It's almost like when a dog shakes its leg, and you find the sweet spot in a dog. Yeah. It's like that. But so with no differences really from the boys to the girls, but with the massages that you do. So let's say someone comes in with a knee injury. What type of work are you doing around a knee that has like an ACL, or is there anything specific that you do with just a basic tear or anything like that, or just a basic knee injury? How do you handle something like that?
Well, first thing I always, and I like to preface this because I am licensed as a massage therapist. Obviously I focus on rehab. I'm not a doctor.
Yep.
And I always have to preface that, and I should always preface that.
Mm-hmm.
So typically, if they're coming to see me, they've already seen a doctor. Mm-hmm. They've already gotten X-rays. All of that happy stuff.
Yep.
So, and I would say typically something like a knee injury like that, I'm gonna assess. See where weakness is.
Yeah.
See where tightness is. Try and correct those balances because. The muscles, particularly the muscles of the thigh, the inner thigh and the IT band, there should be some balance there because they're both going to pull on the knee.
Correct.
The quads in the front and the hamstrings on the back. There should be some quote unquote balance there because they're both going to affect the knee.
Yep.
But I would say another thing, looking at knees in particular, say long term for athletes. Let's say I'm working with a youth athlete.
Yeah.
Who doesn't necessarily have an injury. I'm big on working with feet and the lower half of the leg.
Okay.
And particularly being around wrestlers and around football players, soccer players who wear cleats all the time. Our feet are supposed to be big and wide and not shoved into cleats that are tapered for some reason, which I still don't understand.
Extremely narrow, and they hurt
so much. Extremely, especially soccer cleats.
Mm-hmm.
I think soccer cleats from what I've seen, are worse than football cleats.
So I have to wear a wide work boot, right? So I literally would look forward to wearing my shoes either out in with the hose and then stuffing them, because after you wore them, you had to wear them like 2 or 3 times to stretch the leather. And then once you got them wet, you could stuff newspaper inside of because I wore Copa Mundial's Adidas's, and you could stuff the newspaper in them, and it would stretch that leather out just a little bit, because otherwise now, my toes are messed up for life from having those tight shoes like that, because they literally come around and they get that tight taper right up towards the top, and oh my God, it was so painful. But hey, man, I really love scoring goals in those shoes. I tell you that much. That's some of the best shoes I wore.
Well, was it worth it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the whole sport was worth it after the hip injuries I'm dealing with right now, but I feel like Ben Askren, for God's sakes. But Well, and then go ahead, keep going. Yep.
That's what I say with the feet, because the more you start getting narrowing like that, particularly with the toes and everything, like I could probably just imagine right now with you.
Yep.
How high can you lift your big toe? Think about it.
If I don't have dude shoes on, I can tell you right now. I can go. I mean, I can go probably, I would say like this.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's better than I imagined.
Yeah.
Because typically that's the biggest thing that kind of gets affected.
Sure.
So when that happens, one, neurologically things change. So you keep talking about your hip.
Yep.
So if you can't go into flexion, which raising that big toe is flexion of the big toe.
Yep.
When you do that, even simply as walking.
Yep.
When a joint starts to go into that motion, that tells your butt to fire. That tells your glutes to activate and fire.
Interesting.
So anytime that is compromised, then neurologically your body's not going to be working as efficiently as it's supposed to.
Correct.
And something else is going to take over.
Yep. And compensate. Yeah.
Yeah. But then with that too, then you lose mobility in your toes. And there's something I typically work with a lot called the stability mobility chain. So if we start at the bottom of the body with the toes, it's an alternating chain through the joints.
Okay.
So the toe should be mobile. Your midfoot should be stable. Your ankle should be mobile, right?
Yep.
Because then as you work up that chain, your knee should be stable because you don't want to blow it out.
Right.
Hip should be mobile. Low back should be stable. Shoulder should be mobile. Neck should be stable.
Correct.
Right? So we follow that chain all the way up. So if you've got compensation or your toes aren't mobile, and they're like this all the time.
Yep.
You've probably seen some people like that.
Yep.
Then that changes everything up the line. So if you have toes that are mobile, your arch is probably going to drop more than it's supposed to.
It's a ripple effect. Totally.
It's a ripple effect. And your body has to compensate for it. Your muscles have to say, "Oh, now we've got the knee, working all the way up. We've got a knee that's unstable now. How are we going to correct that?" Most of the times I've seen it, particularly with wrestlers, hamstrings are tight as crap.
Yep.
Because they fire up because they're like, we got to protect the knee. That's our job now. Our job's not to move the leg anymore.
Nope. So that's got to be conflicting with the movement then for a wrestler, because I mean, with the hard stops with shots and stuff like that and going, I mean, that knee must be in constant like protection mode then, which in turn is, I mean, that's why a lot of these ACLs are happening and things are just kind of just easily breaking. And so that's what's funny about the knee tendons in general. A lot of tendons, unless they're super tight, if they're a pretty flexible tendon, you don't notice a whole lot if they're torn. Like you'll see someone like with a knee injury, they'll be like, "Oh, my ACL." They're like, "Yeah, I just felt this little tip, but I didn't feel anything." But I got up and all of a sudden it was like, and then that hurt, that in turn then hurt.
Yeah.
What is the connection? Because I don't understand how the body's made. What is the connection of a tendon? Is the tendon just a fatty material that's connected together that doesn't have any nerve endings inside of it or anything? That people don't feel this?
Okay, so we need to clarify.
Yeah.
So a tendon comes off of a muscle and connects a muscle to bone.
Okay.
I think more what you're referencing with ACLs, LCLs, stuff like that, those are ligaments.
Like a rubber band?
So ligaments connect, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, but ligaments connect bone to bone.
Yeah.
Whereas tendons connect. So tendons, like if you go down your quad, you go into or let's say the calf, just because everybody knows the calf.
Yeah.
The calf comes down, then you have your Achilles tendon.
Okay. See, people, I'm an idiot. I'm not a doctor. I don't know the body very well.
Idiot. Not everybody knows. So a tendon connects muscle to bone. A ligament connects bone to bone.
Okay.
And typically, to go back to your point, typically, yes, they don't necessarily have the same nerve receptors. They don't have the same stretch receptors that are going to tell the body that, oh, that just happened.
Yeah.
That hurts.
It seems like a pretty important aspect to be notified by your body a little more than all of a sudden you get up and you can't stand up properly because it's not connected, like. Yeah.
Well, let's go back to it though. I mean, the ACL and the ligaments in the knee, like we said, don't have a lot of blood flow to them, right?
Right.
So I don't want to say they're not connected.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But they kind of aren't, because there's some nervous system response and stuff to them.
Right.
But from what I know, I think more of that happens, almost to your point, once you stand up and the body feels the instability in the knee.
Yeah.
Says, oh crap, something's happened, and then we get that response to the brain saying, oh, that's not good.
Yeah, right. Because for example,
I think that's where you differentiate it.
Some of the kids can attest to this. I mean, if they don't have one, and we know that Spencer Lee doesn't have both. With my wife just being a waitress, she said she would just be walking. And randomly, and she's like, sometimes she'd have a tray. This was back in the day. She was her 20s, but she was walking with a tray, and all of a sudden she'd fall up against the wall because her knee gave out. I think she's missing up in there. And she's like, it didn't hurt, but my knee just is like, nope, not on this step, and just kind of gave up, and she tipped over. I was like, that's crazy to me. Like, my ankle is pretty much rubber by now with all the, I want to say with all the sprains I've had and rolls I've had. So, I mean, just knowing about knowing how they're connected, but just not where, the names of things, I guess I kind of knew, but learning my legs as I went along, because I think I had an injury in each part of my leg on both legs at some point.
Sure.
But just wanting to know the basics, because the thing was I can't handle medical stuff too much. So like even seeing x-rays of like my wife's leg would probably make me pass out, because I'm just not built like that. But seeing some of the things like you're talking about now, it kind of makes sense, where the connections are with it being a tendon versus, things like that. So it's definitely one of the bigger injuries I've seen in the wrestling world alone. But now shoulder injuries, now, because there are a lot of baseball players that are in wrestling, shoulder injuries I'm noticing are becoming pretty prevalent as well. Do you notice yourself dealing with a lot of shoulder stuff with a lot of the other athletes as well?
I would say of my other athletes, probably football players, once again, going back to baseball.
Yep.
I think to a certain extent with some of those particular athletes, I think we live in a world right now, unfortunately, where there's a lot of overuse.
Sure.
A lot of overtraining, which, is what it is.
We talk about it all the time. It's a parent problem. It's a parent problem.
Well, and you can only talk to people so much about it. And, I think some people also look at me when I talk about it and maybe call me a little hypocritical, because I'm also like, well, if you want to be really good at wrestling, you got to do it year round.
You got it. And but that's the other thing and we talk about that as well, because so much of youth sports now is so competitive that these kids feel like they got to do this, but they have to in order to stay up with the next guy. So it's a double-edged sword, really,
Yeah. Because, I mean, how many of those kids who are playing, AAA baseball, at 14, 15, how many of them go to college and play ball?
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of them.
Not a whole lot of them. And when they do, they wind up with, what's that called? Tommy Johns?
Oh, yeah. Particularly if they're pitchers. Yeah, they're throwing up their elbow because they're throwing too many curveballs.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying this happens to everybody.
Nope.
But, yeah, I mean, it's an obvious trend. And, I mean, it sounds like you talked about it with other people too.
Yep. So with shoulder injuries, what are you noticing? Are a lot of the shoulder injuries like just impact, like guys being brought down on a tackle or kind of slammed on the mat type injuries, or are these injuries where the guy's like getting their arm pulled out of the socket kind of thing?
No, I would say it's a little bit of everything, but probably more often than not, some kind of overuse.
Okay.
Pitching too much.
Sure.
Even in football's probably a little bit more contact, but at the same time, that thinking of the people I'm thinking of, that's probably also a football player who also plays baseball.
Yeah, right.
So there's that propensity is already there, and
kids, man.
The overuse. Yeah, the overuse. Well, and I don't have any problem with
no, but it's just amazing at the level these kids are playing, at the amount of sports that they're playing. And it's nuts. And just thinking about my body at 43, I mean, I played on national teams and stuff like that, but my body at 43 playing that type of sport compared to how these kids are going to be at 43 after playing the type of sports they have to play, like, man, our insurance better get way better because those kids are going to need it.
Well, and I mean, I think the other side of that coin too, particularly with the traveling baseball with, whatever AAU, whatever you want to call it, is trying to find not only the appropriate strength and conditioning program, but also implementing it appropriately.
Sure, right. Right. Yep.
I mean, you can have a kid train 3 times a week, but then, even up to maybe 5 in the off season, if they have an off season.
Yeah.
But, I think a lot of them even continue, they might dial her back a little bit, but they continue to do that during season. And that's just, it's not appropriate. Really.
Go ahead. Keep going. Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine.
No, you really need to, dial it back. And particularly, I think probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see, particularly high school kids. And I think, obviously with boys, testosterone's going. And if you've been lifting for a while, you want to everybody wants to get jacked, and which is fine if that's your goal. But 2 things. One, to a certain point, your deadlift, your bench, however you want to qualify it, at a certain point, if you start lifting heavy enough, that is going to be a detriment to whatever sport you're playing. I don't care, baseball, hockey, wrestling, whatever.
Yep.
Because it's just not going to transfer over.
Sure.
And 2, you're setting yourself up for complete overtraining because your strength and conditioning hasn't really changed since the off season, and now you're in season.
Yeah.
And now your overall volume is like 3 times what it should be.
Correct. And and your body's not prepared for that. So with
your body's not prepared for it.
With the kids, the athletes that you work with in the side that you deal with, what are you finding now that there's a lot of stuff out? I mean, you have the techniques that you learned through your education, but now as far as being in the industry, what are you finding to be the most beneficial to all of the therapies? What is the one thing that, because we talked about, cupping, and there's probably several other things, and electrodes. What are you finding is the most beneficial with what you deal with on the most part, as far as the massage part? What is the best? Is the massage just that's the key, or do other people react differently to different things, and it's really hard to tell from person to person?
I agree with that totally. Everybody reacts differently, particularly the different modalities, and even with the massage, the scraping. To me, what I'm finding, and I've got another colleague here that's starting to come in.
Yep.
Movement is the biggest and most important thing.
Okay, sure.
Primarily because, and you've probably heard this quote before, I think we really, really live in a society that values, like, let's take a squat. They value how much is on that bar and not how good the movement is.
Oh, totally. Yeah. There's a lot of of numbers. They're more worried about how much and not how. Yeah.
Correct. And movement, to me, and even like I prefaced earlier, a lot of times we'll do work on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And anymore, I haven't had people disrobe and get under sheets and blankets or any of that stuff. I haven't had people do that for 8-9 years now.
Yep.
Because a lot of times what we'll do work on the table. We'll theoretically, correct this, correct that.
Yep.
Have them get up, move around, walk around, maybe do a movement, and make sure the nervous system resets. Make sure that we're making progress in the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
That way, when they go to do whatever they're going to do, they can do it.
Yeah.
And not just, I worked on you and, now you're all done.
Yeah. So I suppose that's hard to even say that someone has like a set plan then too, as far as recovery. I mean, you can set a standard, be like, okay, this is typically what we have. But I mean, obviously, again, every body is different as far as how it reacts to treatment or recovery itself. Cause I mean, not just age, I mean, just persons. I mean, obviously an older person takes a little bit longer to recover from certain things, but with the massage therapy that you're doing, do you know that obviously it's, I guess for lack of a better term, it's more holistic because you're not relying so much on medications and things like that. But do you notice a lot more of a I guess a whole recovery with what you do? Because you can recover and still be, I would say not just mobile, but you can play athletics. Full recovery to me isn't like 100% looks like brand new, like no one's ever been hurt. But I mean, you're back on and good to go where nothing should happen. Are you finding that your side is a lot more conducive to that because of how natural it is?
I would agree with that. I would preface it that by saying, a lot of PTs do the same thing.
Sure.
And granted, I'm kind of in a gray area, being technically a massage therapist and a personal trainer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just like I said, just the fact of the body work I do, I can look at you, I can work on you, we can correct this, and then I say, go do these 3 exercises.
Sure.
And then, hopefully we're moving in the right direction. So yes.
Right.
Can we get to that point of, quote unquote, full recovery with hopefully, without steroids, without, taking pain medication, things of that nature? That's 100% my hope with almost everybody that I work with.
Of course. Yeah. And obviously each client's different in how they follow what you're supposed to do. I mean, we know how that goes, but with what you guys continue to do, I mean, are there advancements that have come along that people aren't aware of? Are there new things that are coming along as far as massage therapy for sports specific? I mean, is it kind of a, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like an old shaman kind of thing? Like these are the ways that have been around for a while and this is what's worked kind of thing? Or does it evolve?
I would say it evolves because I think particularly when we're looking at massage therapy specifically and the people who do sports massage specifically at a high level, or I also rope that into what I think a lot of times they'll term it as medical massage because we are trying to accomplish something. It's not just relaxation and, what do they say, rainbows and unicorns and all that happy stuff. But we're trying to accomplish something. And with that, most of my training was done by a guy, I'm going to forget his name right now, but I took a couple of his seminars over the course of a year.
Yeah.
And every time I took a seminar, something changed.
Okay.
Even though, the first time we worked lower body, the second seminar we worked upper body, the overall technique was similar, both for upper and lower body, but we always had to ask him, like, what changed? Because
continued education.
He was refining the technique all the time.
Gotcha.
And I think when I initially started taking his courses, he had released a book, and of course it was, the only quote unquote medical massage peer reviewed book. So I mean, he actually put it out there to the community and said, is this the way it should be? Is this the way it should be? So
yeah, nice.
So I think it's constantly evolving.
Okay.
And I think at the same time, I think once again, you keep bringing up, it is subjective and each person is different. Because I remember talking or listening to a podcast about somebody who worked in my capacity that worked at an Olympic training center.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And it obviously had, hopefully unlimited budget, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was kind of coming to those, like, because even here we have light therapy. So
sure,
talking about like red light therapy or visualization or this or that. And this therapist, said, I spent, such and such money because this Olympic athlete was there, and for some reason they liked, a crystal on their forehead or something.
Yeah, whatever.
And there are things like that are so subjective.
Yeah.
But when you get those higher level athletes, where if you can work with them, and you can get them to calm down or be able to focus that, 0.0% more, then that's a benefit, right?
So that brings up a good point when you're talking about the calming down. I mean, because it's an important part of. I mean, it's like you said, you guys are looking to heal something. You're not just looking to make a muscle relax. But when, as a trainer, have you worked at on the training aspect? Ever had to work at a wrestling tournament? Just to no. Okay, so. You talk about relaxing. So a kid's going to come over to a table, right? And 9 chances out of 10, they have an injury, but a lot of times they're going to check the leg for cramps or whatever. So now you still need a kid to calm down. Now you're in an environment where there are parents screaming in the whole place.
And it's loud.
Yeah. And it's loud.
And there's announcing.
And the kid just got out of a match that was probably, fairly intense, or at least now it's intense because he's hurt and he's probably crying and his parents probably freaking out. So I can only imagine what it's like trying to figure out what's going on with an athlete in an intense environment. It's got to be a lot more cathartic for an athlete to be able to know coming into an office like that. You know what I'm saying? To be able to have something worked on, knowing, I mean, it's a little intense because kids don't like going to a doctor's office per se, but you guys have tables that are, that these guys can go on, that they recognize it's not just a, like a medical type facility. You're still there as a relaxed environment. So that way, because you need them to be relaxed. So with that being said, I mean, is that a part of what you guys have to set up too? I mean, you have so many different techniques that you have. How big is your facility as far as what you're dealing with and the size and the things that you have? Because now you've mentioned some other things that you guys do there. Are those on your side as well, as far as the other therapies that you guys do there?
Yeah, I guess you could call it a side. So,
okay.
Breaking out into Victory as a whole.
Yeah.
We have 8,000 square feet.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
Yep.
So we've got two full-size wrestling mats for our wrestling room.
Yep.
We have, I wouldn't say a full-size gym, but we've got a gym big enough for 3 squat racks. We've got airdynes because that's what wrestlers do.
Yeah.
We got rollers. We've got treadmills. So within that space, on my side specifically, I also have a recovery room.
Yeah.
And the main reason I sent you the initial message to maybe talk about this was you were talking about with Maja with the infrared versus traditional.
Correct. Yes.
So my recovery room here, I have 2 things in it. I have a 3 wavelength infrared sauna.
Yep.
And then I also have red light therapy, which I don't know how much you know about that.
I don't. I think some people may want to know about that.
Yeah. So thinking about the conversation of traditional sauna versus infrared sauna, because I know you brought that up.
I did.
You were even looking at mine.
Yep. I know, and I know. Obviously, we know that a lot of the high school kids, it's against whatever WIA. So it's I think as far as saunas go, I think there are some rules that go against them. I don't know of any kids that use them. So I mean, Maj was a little worried, and I understand his concern. He doesn't. None of the high school kids that I know of use them. If they use them, it's off season or whatever they're doing, hanging out with parents, moms, dads, whatever. There's nobody using this to like drop weight and kill themselves, because we talk about that all the time in the show. There's not something that we condone, benefit, think it's a good idea, unless it's part of a plan that you're doing over the summer, whatever it is. But I think the sauna thing got a little out of control with a lot of the weight loss that was going on when I was a kid. Well, when we were in high school, I mean, I was still wearing, we were wearing rubber suits and throwing up and spitting all day and doing all kinds of stupid stuff like that. Wonder why injuries happen. Huh.
Well,
and
you were, I was.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So that's why I stopped, because I was like, this is pointless. Why am I doing this? I don't have to do this when I play soccer. This is way better. So the sauna, there's benefits to these saunas, and that's, I think, a big thing that people need to understand. There are proper ways, just like when I train dogs, there's a proper way to use dog collars when you're training a dog, is to the point to where you don't need them, but there's a proper way to use these saunas as well. It's such a health benefit. I mean, I can't believe on how people, and we have bad people and everything, but people don't realize how much these actually benefit.
Yep. So just a quick breakdown: traditional steam sauna versus infrared. So they're both going to increase body core temperature.
Sure.
Which in turn, going back to circulation, is going to help circulation. It's going to help fluid flow. It's going to help relax muscles. Once again, because I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't think about, whatever sport you're doing, whatever lifting you're doing.
Yeah. But
particularly with wrestling, even if you get into a hard drill with somebody,
yep.
You are in a sympathetic state. Your nervous system is going.
Yep.
You have to bring that down, because otherwise, in the long term, and particularly, I mean, you could have things like adrenal fatigue and stuff like that. You can't stay in a sympathetic state all the time.
Right.
So comparatively, both of those are going to do that. Obviously, the traditional steam sauna is probably going to help you sweat more just because of the steam.
Sure. Yeah.
Open up your pores more, etc. Negatives to steam sauna in my eyes and from my experience.
Yep.
Unless you properly hydrate either during or directly after, which, like you said, there's good and bad for everything.
Correct.
I think there are still a lot of people that use a steam sauna to cut weight. Nobody here, but I mean, a lot of people, because it can be fast and effective.
Correct.
But what happens in my mind in that kind of situation, particularly if you do it repetitively for a long time, as your hydration levels go up and down, the muscles and the connective tissue of the body stick together more.
Oh, okay.
And when that starts, yeah. So there's kind of this connective tissue term in massage therapy called gel or soul.
Okay.
And of course, I always mix the two up. I don't know which one's beneficial and which one's not.
Yeah.
I don't talk about it that much.
Yeah.
So either the muscles and connective tissues glide against each other like they're supposed to when you're working out, doing wrestling, whatever.
Right.
Or particularly as the hydration levels go up and down, or particularly for a long extended period of having low hydration in the body, because we are 70% water. Those tissues start to stick together.
Huh.
So when you go to contract something, it might pull something else. And I would almost say, particularly with like Achilles injuries.
Yeah.
Because the calves are used a lot in wrestling.
Yeah.
And eventually, you get those tissues that are just kind of stuck together all the time.
Yep.
and you continue to use them and use them and use them, and they start to break down. And
interesting.
Then hopefully not, but you might get that Achilles rupture, and then your season's done.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, it's your season's pretty much.
Whereas, so whereas the infrared sauna, mine in particular here is a Sunlighten brand sauna, so it does. Okay. It's one of their special ones that has near, mid, and far infrared wavelengths.
Okay.
Most commercial ones that you're going to find typically are going to have the far infrared, and that's going to help increase body core temperature, increase circulation, relax the muscles. But with the two other wavelengths, they're a longer wavelength, so they actually penetrate deeper into the body.
Okay.
And those wavelengths are actually going to help with cellular health. So they're going to help the cells just do what they do better.
Okay.
They're going to help with tendon and ligament repair and just overall health.
So that sounds like infrared's better to me. Just saying. So I love the traditional. I mean, I love to sit in a sauna, sweat it out kind of thing, with the steam. And it's not that I don't like that. Yep. But it's something that I guess I'd want to. It sounds like the infrared's a little less upkeep, with the steam and wood and all that other stuff. But I mean, it just seems like it's a little more beneficial for your body as well.
It is a little bit more beneficial, but I mean, once again, even going back to the traditional steam sauna, moderation is always the best thing for anything.
Right, correct. Yeah. You can get too much sunlight. You don't want to go out. You can get too much sunlight.
You can. Not usually, but you can.
But that's because I know a lot of people, because I've talked about wanting to get one as well, but because I want to have a hot tub outside, and then I wanted to have an infrared sauna outside, but I didn't know the real draws and to getting or not getting one. And they're not. I mean, now, as long as you're looking at the right brands, but they're not that expensive. They're really a decent price. But you guys have all this stuff there, which you guys have a training facility. You have, all the recovery, massage. You have the sports wellness center. I mean, are there things that you guys can handle as far as any kind of recovery? I mean, it sounds like you guys cover a really big compass of things there.
Yeah, we cover, I think we cover most of the spectrum. So let me quick rundown with everything we have. So also, like I said, in my recovery room, I also have the red light therapy.
Okay. Yep.
That is full body red light therapy. I've actually got two panels that are facing each other that are 6 foot by 18 inches wide.
Wow.
And you actually
just stand in between them.
Disrobe and you stand in between them.
Wow.
And so the red light is actually a shorter wavelength, so it doesn't penetrate the body as well. It's more superficial, so you want that skin contact.
Yeah.
But red light is going to affect the mitochondria of all your cells.
This is very Tron-y. This is turning very Tron-y as far as how we're healing our body with this. We're standing around in the middle of two red beams, and things. It's very. So I'm just thinking of all these 80s movies that we had as kids. It's just all this futuristic stuff, and it's coming to life.
Well, and I do refer to myself as Kevin Flynn when I say this.
That's awesome.
But when you stand in there and you're absorbing that light, it affects the mitochondria in your cells, and mitochondria.
Interesting. Okay.
When you can affect them in this way, increases ATP production, which is energy for all your cells.
Yeah.
So essentially, when you stand in there, we're boosting all of your energy. So whether it's for performance, which we can use it for performance, or particularly if you have an injury, if we're giving, even if it's just superficially in your skin, because I actually thought about this the other day. It's like, well, it's only in the skin. Well, the skin's our biggest organ. So if we can, increase all the energy production for all of our cells, why wouldn't we?
Right.
That's going to help recovery. It's going to help performance.
Yeah, totally.
And all of that. So, but then moving on, we also do have, and I sent you pictures. We do have the recovery room.
Yep.
Featuring our Normatec, Hyperice now. Hyperice.
Okay.
Them.
Yep.
So the Normatec Hyperice recovery boots. So we've got boots that you put on like big snow pants.
Yep.
I don't know, are you familiar with those at all?
I've seen them, and I talked to people who've done them, but I don't know the technicalities behind it. So I do know that it's a boot that I think it zips on or snaps on, whichever way.
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Yep. And so they work as compression boots. So a couple things happen once again.
Like an arm pressure band boot, kind of like that. So it's squeezing your leg. That sounds really comfortable.
And it's squeezing your whole leg. You can adjust the pressure.
Can you?
But once again, going back, particularly wrestling, where you're in a fight or flight response most of the time, one, it can help bring down that muscle tone. It can help bring that, rest and relax feeling.
So is it giving that constricted, that push, so that way the leg can let go of it? And then once you release the pressure from the boot, how does that work? Because you said that it's working like an arm pressure band for people that don't know about these. Yep. So when they're taking your arm pressure, they pump it up, squeeze your arm. So this is squeezing your leg. Yep. Is it compressing your leg so the leg muscle itself is saying that, okay, it's already compressed, it doesn't need to do the work, so it stops, and then when you release the pressure from the boot, your leg then relaxes? How does that work?
Similarly, so if we equate it to massage,
mm-hmm.
when I push on a muscle, we send a signal to the brain to tell that part of the body to relax.
Okay.
Obviously, with massage, with my training, it has to be a little, it has to be specific if
yep.
we're looking for that desired outcome.
Yep.
But with these boots, and like I said, it's pretty much like a snow pants. It's the whole leg.
Right. Yep.
Like you said, you've seen them.
Yep.
It does similarly. It's not so much that it's going to cut off circulation.
No, right.
That, but just that pressure is going to send a signal to the nervous system to tell the muscles to relax.
Yeah.
Which is going to help us push blood flow.
Correct.
And
okay.
Particularly, let's say you just had a heavy squat day, you go get in the boots. They decrease your muscle tone and allow you to relax a little bit, and then start pushing blood flow, because the boots actually have different bladders in them. They're all pneumatic.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, and particularly with everything over there now too, of course, there's an app for that. There's an app for everything.
Everything.
So particularly now, you can Bluetooth your phone to the boots.
Oh.
And now, instead of whatever original pre-programmed program that was in the machine, now you can do pre-workout, you can do post-workout, you can do
adjust as you go.
Whatever. You can adjust as you go.
Wow.
And particularly the way we've got it set up with our tables,
yep.
There's a little slide that comes out where you hook the machine into the boots. You push it back under, you open it up on your phone.
Nice.
And you just hang out and relax.
Okay.
But so with that, we've got 3 essentially athletic training tables with regular and extra large boots on each one.
Sure.
And then we also have, going back to old guy injuries.
Yep.
We have what's called the Hyperice X. That is actually a knee sleeve that goes, you put it on.
Yep.
And it goes back and forth between hot and cold within like 20 seconds. So it goes back. And so once again, going to ligament injuries, stuff like that.
Yep.
They typically don't have a lot of blood flow.
Yeah.
So if we can simulate that by hot and cold, by opening blood vessels, constricting blood vessels, really good for rehabbing ACL, PCL, LCL injuries.
Right on. Okay.
But then also, to wrap this up in there, massage guns, vibrating massage rollers, and vibrating massage balls.
Okay.
So pretty much anything you would want in a recovery room.
Yep.
We pretty much have it there. And, even at this point too, because I've been thinking about it, trying to get, teams in here or small groups from, the football team or volleyball team.
Yeah. Yep.
we've got a smart TV right on the wall, and if you want to get 5-6 kids in there, you guys just played. Let's recover.
Yep.
Just put it, open the app on your phone and let's put the video up from the match we just did, or whatever. Let's watch video while we're recovering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, right on. So what do you guys have for? We'll break down on the business side a little bit here. What do you guys have for hours out there?
For the most part, right now it's pretty much 6 to 8.
Okay.
As far as
that's pretty late, man.
Stuff. Yeah. Well,
nice.
I mean, we're still trying to figure all of that out.
Yeah.
Some of our practices for high school and stuff, because some guys still come in here and practice after they have regular high school practice.
Yes, I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of that sometimes doesn't even wrap up till 9.
Oh, okay. God. Yeah. And that's true. That's true. I know Liam goes, they go till like maybe 5:30 some nights, I think at practice. And then, he'll hit up one right in town here and still go until like 8:00. So he's not eating till like 8:30, 9:00. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. So, and I know as far as my business side of it, I also have fitness classes that I run early morning. I myself teach TRX suspension, kettlebells, and then like a total body circuit class Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5:30 a.m. And then I've got another lady that teaches for me. She does Pilates and yoga.
Okay.
5:30 a.m. 5 days a week.
Okay.
So
okay.
We have some early morning risers for classes like that, and then try to have the open gym. I think the big thing right now, and I don't want to scare anybody away from not coming, but
right.
Most of the stuff right now, like you can schedule with me online. You can schedule the light recovery, the sauna and everything online. You can schedule the recovery room online. But most of those hours right now have been kind of dictated by my schedule.
Sure.
Just because I know that I'm here and the building is open.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of that stuff is self-serve anyway. You
sure, yeah.
Schedule online, pay online, you show up, you use it. But, I'm also not going to set it up so that, you can come at this time and then they show up and the building's locked and dark and nobody's here.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, that would be good.
So we're still working on that. But I think overall, and I think if we get more of this stuff moving
mm-hmm.
and the more we get people using it and hopefully feeling better, we can help open that up a little bit more. And
definitely.
Because, I mean, my goal in talking to Kevin, and I don't know do you know Derek Miller at all?
A little. I know of him. I don't know him personally.
Yeah. So he's also in this project with us as well. Sanctuary, I think he coaches at Sanctuary Central.
Okay.
And my goal, and it's been kind of shared, by Kevin and Derek as well.
Yep.
This facility used to be a long time ago, back when we were in high school.
Sure.
Was a racquetball club and a health club. And from what I've heard, I was never in it at that time, but it was almost like a community center as well.
Sure. Yep.
And it was busy all the time.
Yep.
And, with the facilities we have, with the stuff that we have, I don't see any reason. Yes, we wrestle here. Does that mean football players can't come in and get recovery? Does that mean that volleyball players can't come in and get recovery?
Well, yeah, it's called sports and wellness. I mean, and plus it's not, you guys don't have anything really that, I mean, other than being tied to the Victory Wrestling, training facility. I mean, you guys are also sports encompassing. I mean, we talked about baseball and football injuries and stuff like that. So yeah, no need. Don't be afraid. And so I think too, just an idea. I mean, maybe get out to some of the high school, wrestling coaches themselves. See if you can talk to the team or even get into the gym classes. Talk to those guys, and because it's important. I think this is the biggest thing that a lot of, obviously parents know that their kids, a kid's gonna get injured or something like that down the road, or sometimes even now, like with Liam, he's getting older. He's noticing things that are starting to feel a little more sore than they used to. Recovery is important. You don't just have to be injured to recover. I mean, your body still needs a recovery time. So I think I think that's another misconception about what this recovery is too, is that it's not recovery from an injury. This is just recovery from competition, because that, just listening to what you're talking about, when your body, and when you're, especially wrestlers and stuff and football players, you're bashing and pounding your feet. You're everything's going into that reactive mode where it tightens up and wants to protect. I mean, eventually your bones and muscles are going to pay the price. So recovery from that is really big. And we talk about that with nutrition too, that I talked with Frank Jasper about. Nutrition's key for your recovery as well. You can't just think that you're going to go into an ice bath that's 25 degrees and all of a sudden your body's just going to be great. No, you have to incorporate everything else with it, nutrition as well. So recovery is big on a meal side and also on just a recovery side. So what you guys are doing, I think, is unique. I think it's important to have all of that in one, because you can go to the chiropractor over here, then you drive across town, then you go to your personal trainer over here to work out with the therapy.
Yep.
Then, over here, you guys have it all in one place. Now, that'd be fantastic if this got going and you guys could partner up with someone. You guys have, somewhere up north, north over by Lake Winnebago over here, down south, because I think this is pretty important to have. If anything, people pay attention to it. Other clubs, other sports facilities do it too, because you can save a lot of time and you can save a lot of people a lot of headaches by having that amount of knowledge in one building. And Kevin Black's been around for quite some time. He knows a little bit about wrestling.
A little bit.
Right. So then having you guys on board is even better. Maj has got great energy. You have a lot of knowledge in what you're doing, a lot of passion with what you're doing. So it's really good to see that this is something that's a part of, I'll say, the wrestling community, but you guys are obviously all sports encompassing. So.
Yeah. And it is nice to be part of the wrestling community and have those connections. Mm-hmm. And I think even in the past, in talking to Derek and Kevin, we have talked about almost having, partnerships with other clubs where, so-and-so's a club out, so-and-so's a member out here, then, you come, you stop by here, you train a day or two or whatever.
Sure.
And, maybe it's a discounted fee because of whatever, whatever the agreement might be. But even with that, like I said, at the same time, thinking about stuff like that, to me, with everything we have, there is no reason this shouldn't be a quote unquote destination training facility.
Right. Right. For sure. Well, plus with the Olympic styles that you guys handle there, with Maja and then you have Lance Jens, he's folk style there, probably freestyle as well. Just Lance, I know I said it in the yearbook version there, but yeah, you guys have a lot of knowledge out there as far as just especially the wrestling side as far as what's going on there. So that's definitely a facility. Liam will probably wind up stopping out there to train a little bit too, because him and Maj are pretty tight, because Maj is probably one of the most unique dudes I've ever run into in my entire life. So full of energy.
I love Maja.
I know, right? He's a guy. I saw him at the Eau Claire tournament, and I was talking to him for like 10, 15 minutes or whatever, but like I literally had to, I was going back into the gym, we were done talking, but I literally had to turn back around and tell him, I was like, dude, you have so much energy. You have so much energy. Like, I wake up in the morning, when I wake up, give me 5-10 minutes, I'm pretty good to go for the rest of the day, kind of like Liam. Maja's got to be like, bam, out of bed, just firing out the door. And I know we're all getting older, so I'm sure it's changed a little bit, where it's not like, not quite as energetic, but man, that guy's got energy. So it's good to see. You guys have a good crew out there.
I think he's up and going. I agree with you. I think and that's even without coffee, because I know I usually work Saturday mornings, and he, at the time a while back when he was like coming in regularly for Greco, like he hadn't even had coffee yet. And I was like, okay, here, grab some coffee.
Yeah.
And he was like, boom.
Yeah, don't need it.
Yelling. God, does he love to yell during practice?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think that's
I love
trademark we brought from the 80s, I think, is the yelling thing still at practices and coaching and stuff. But no, you guys have a really good thing going out there, and like I said, Liam will be out there, and we'll be out there to check some of the stuff out too. So, but I'm gonna end it on that. Now, I do want to have you back because there are things as we go along in the season I'm gonna probably see as far as new technologies or even things that you guys are doing and kind of bring you on and talk about a little bit more. Cause I mean, there's a lot to talk about. You guys have a lot of different things that are there. So I would definitely like to have you guys back on talking about, maybe some other types of therapies that you guys do there. We can dive into a couple little individual things there. So,
sure. I appreciate it. I love it.
Hey, as far as you guys, if you guys have anything going on, specials, anything like that, let me know. Cause I'll throw them out there for you guys. I think it's like I said, if we could get more either jumping on board with you guys or more kind of, I guess grabbing the concept, just having it around. I'm sure a couple guys would love to, but it's a good thing you guys have going. So, I'm going to leave it. Go ahead.
I know. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's and I think you dove in when we talked a little bit about especially the saunas, because I think there's a big misconception about them as far as how they get used. And like you said, there's always going to be people that abuse things and use them incorrectly, but do research. There's a lot of benefits from them. And as far as just the recovery process, I think that was the biggest thing that I was kind of looking forward to, is just kind of knowing what the recovery benefits are from them and just the way to use them. And I don't know about mitochondria and stuff like that with infrared. I mean, that's not the type of rabbit hole I go down when I start looking at stuff. Mitochondria.
I'm actually kind of surprised that you even recalled that.
Yeah. Well, it's sitting there thinking in my head.
No offense. I don't know you that well, but
I hated biology, dude. I absolutely hated it. My mitochondria, that's what I said. But we'll leave it at that. We are joined here, excuse me, again by Gary Mitchel. He is of Massage Concepts, that is within the Victory Sports and Wellness Center. We appreciate you joining us. We'll have you on again, like I said, because there's more that I want to learn about and see what you guys have going on as we dive into nutrition as well. So that way these guys have something to go off of as far as making athletes feel better and honestly recovering from injuries. So thank you, Gary.
Love it.
Much appreciated, man. All of our episodes are brought to you by Appleton Tattoo, located at 117 South Appleton Street in Appleton, Wisconsin, right off the main drag on College Avenue. You can't miss them. I've had some work done. I have a Celtic cross that covers my back that was done by Jason. We're not done yet. Jason Winans and crew, the artists that he have there, those guys are the best in the Fox Valley. They are definitely one to go to if it's something that you've just been kind of throwing around. They'll make you feel comfortable. It's a very clean environment, very nice crew, and very willing to get done whatever you need done when you need it done. You can message them on Facebook. I know they're on Facebook. You can give them a call at 920-604-8289 and get in touch with Jason Winans and crew at Appleton Tattoo, located again in Appleton, Wisconsin at 117 South Appleton Street, right in Appleton. Very flexible hours, great crew, clean environment again. I would not send you anywhere else except for these guys. Appleton Tattoo.